All right, we are joined by two incredible guests. Let's give it up for Josh Beveridge and Humberto Rosa from Sony Pictures Imageworks. They've come down to our electric playground at VFS Cafe space here at 390 West Hastings. And yes, this space is open to the public. It's not just for students. And the students are always super busy right when we start the show because they have their lunchtime and then they go right back into class. So sometimes we get a few of them, but we haven't got to that point where we get the whole class coming down for this. I'm working with the school, and eventually you're going to see a lot of students in here, but you can always come down if you are just interested in the topics that we talk about here on the show. And today we've got something very special. It's like a birthday present for me because we get to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, Joshua, you are the head of animation at Sony Imageworks.
I have that honor, yes.
That's amazing.
Lucky position.
And Humberto, you are the lead animator on Spider-Verse.
He was actually the first animator to join with me and the last one to wrap. So he was on for the whole journey of animation.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well,
made emojis in the middle, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, right. You guys made the Emoji Movie as well. This is very different. And one thing that I want to say about Into the Spider-Verse is that I think Pixar has been just such a huge force in CG animation and so inspiring, I think, to a lot of studios and a lot of movies that come out. But the thing that is just amazing about this movie is that it doesn't look anything like any Pixar-type movies or really any other CG animated movies that have come out, you know, since Pixar has gained so much attention, I feel.
That means so much to hear. That was absolutely the goal from the beginning. Just be different, take risks, take a big swing. That was from the top down. Usually, as artists, you have to ask for permission to take risks and try things, especially in these big budget projects where there's so much organization, so many expenses, and so many risks calculated. For all of the team, both artists and leadership, asking for big swings from day one was an incredible opportunity.
That's awesome. Was it a sense of feeling free with the Spider-Man myth and the familiarity that was already sort of embedded out there in the world, that you had some trust in that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say free. There was definitely we had high expectations, and we knew that there was a lot of care and importance with the Miles origin, that people were paying attention and that mattered. Right. That we needed to land. It felt like we were walking a tightrope where artistically freedom was absolutely part of the process, but that it mattered.
Humberto, how many iterations do you think you came up with, you know, sort of illustrating Miles for the first time and, you know, showing it to Lord and Miller and the director? What's the director's name? I forget.
There's three directors.
Three directors.
So it's Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman.
Okay, and so they had a script and they had a vision. Did they already have, you know, some images that they said we want to animate to this, or was that something that you guys presented to them? How did that all come together?
They brought in some of the best painters on the planet, all collaborating to come up with looks for us to try to world build from, and then we did exploration. We had a good sandbox of a year to try and find our look and try and find something that we could move and live in before we started making it. But there were some very cool looks we got excited about early on.
So
but engineering them was the real trick.
I bet you had concept art to kind of build from.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
Yeah, and models, and like not just concept art. Like they had already been making the 3D look like the concept art. We just still had to figure out how it moved.
Yes,
which is always a tricky thing to do.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about this movie, and I think it's it's a little weird, I think, for some people, right? When they come into it, I had one of the reviewers that saw the Vancouver screening swear it was a 3D movie that we didn't get 3D glasses for. But I could see that you guys had crafted, like the image was kind of off of the dots a little bit, like it was a comic page, and it's a real love letter to comic books.
100%. All of that, like that was that was another one of the risks. We knew, because we wanted the world to feel like it was printed in ink. That meant there couldn't be any of those like soft, gradient, blurry things. Right. And blur is how you focus, camera focus. So we had to use offsetting, like a misprinted comic, to be focus.
That is amazing. And I caught that, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching a comic book on screen, you know, as if I'm flipping the pages, and you guys have animated between the panels.
That was every risk we had to take. We banged on a solution that, like, again, once the decision was made in ink, that caused a ripple down effect of all of these different factors. Like, again, because there's no nothing soft, it had to feel like it could be only made in ink. That means that we couldn't have motion blur, and then that led to us doing moving the characters in a completely different way than we normally do too.
That's awesome. I think you could probably spot who works out of California and who works out of Vancouver here.
It's snowing today.
It's freezing in this city right now.
I mean, to be fair, I'm from Argentina. I'm not used to the cold weather.
Okay, all right.
But you're living in Vancouver way too much.
You've acclimated, but
I
I have to ask, how that sort of works for you guys, because you were talking before we rolled here that 90% or 98% of the movie was made here. So is it just the internet is fast enough that you guys can have that sort of instant communication, or is there a common language, or is it just so ingrained now?
There is that we've been working this way a lot, so that we've gotten better and better at it. It's become more routine, and some of the team does travel back and forth because there's some things you just need to do in person. The brainstorming is always best in person, just see those little micro reactions to see if something's really setting in or we're understanding each other. But there is something nice about talking remotely through a camera too, that's actually more personal. Usually back in the day when everyone was in the same on a floor of desks and you do desk rounds, you go around one desk to another, and you're like backseat driving with them. It's uncomfortable to be talking about the work in the abstract space between you. You're looking each other in the eye. In a weird way, that part of it's more personal.
Okay. Humberto, did you work in LA too, or have you always worked in Vancouver?
Always in Vancouver, yeah.
Okay, and how do you find the process of collaborating with an LA team and directors that are there, but also probably working on other projects at the same time, right?
Yeah, I find it interesting. I think in a project like this, where we, the leads and the animators, we had a lot of creative freedom. A lot of the movie was just like, these are our boundaries, and this is sort of what we know works. But whatever's in the middle, you can figure it out however you want. It's kind of cool to have the distance, because then it gave us here in Vancouver a lot of time to just iterate between us, have our own little, I guess, private meetings, unofficial meetings, desk and face to face.
And you take a lot of ownership for them.
Exactly.
Those kind of things you're solving.
And then once you present it to review, it's a bit more formal, but you've already worked that a bit further than you would probably have if you have Josh here or the directors here, and you can just show them at your desk or something like that.
Awesome. And the studio that you're in also does work in live action as well?
Yes.
So there's a live action effects sort of background there too. Did you happen to work on The Amazing Spider-Man or any of the Spider-Man Homecoming or anything?
I didn't. You did?
Yeah, I did a little bit for the last one.
Okay, cool. And does that inform when you go to a CG movie, or is it's a separate animal?
I think as an animator, it absolutely does. I personally love that Imageworks does a wide variety of looks and styles.
Sure.
So we don't have like a house style that everything's dogmatically the same.
Yes.
So that I think you learn so much more. It gives you more opportunity to learn from other aesthetics.
Yeah.
But for Spider-Verse, we set out with the ambition to clearly not be the way we've been typically working. We didn't want to be a cartoon, and we didn't want to be recreating reality. So we were trying to avoid things we'd done before and pick and choose our favorite parts of those. But
you're winning awards like crazy. But I'm wondering, it's incredible. I mean, congratulations, and they're all deserved, by the way. Golden Globes, the Annie Awards, the Visual Effects Society Awards. You're nominated for Best Animated Picture for the Oscar. I know you're going to win it, and you deserve it. But it's amazing to see. I mean, you look at the poster, and all those things are there. But did you know that this was going to hit? Was there a moment where it was like, oh my God? And one of the things too. Well, I'll talk about this in a second. But did you ever know?
No. We weren't thinking about it, honestly.
Okay.
We, I mean, when we're not exaggerating when we say we felt like we were taking risks, and risks inherently mean it's going to be divisive or there's a chance of failure. I think we felt like we were on a tightrope, and there's a big when it's not right, it was really wrong.
Yeah.
So and that fear of failure was with us the entire time, especially when it was our secret. For the first, all the development part, and we were just starting to build the style and like hone into it. It wasn't until the trailer went out there. Well, we're still, like the trailer, the first teaser trailer went out. that was the only part of the movie that had been made.
Yeah.
That's all
really?
that existed.
Okay.
And we had to reverse engineer how to make that part of the movie later.
Yeah.
Oh
my God. We're learning some secrets today. I guess that's like a sliver in a game or something that they always do. Like.
Yeah, I mean, we meant it. It was a tease. It was meant to be a proper tease, and then the response was so amazing. That next day in work was euphoric for everyone. Like, it gave us a sense of confidence, and we got bolder afterwards.
That's awesome. I play this soundtrack all the time. The soundtrack is amazing for this movie. It kind of reminds me of how important soundtracks were in the 80s, like with Back to the Future or Ghostbusters or Terminator or something, where you would just hear them all the time. And I feel the same way about the soundtrack to this movie. And I'm wondering if there was any animation sort of coming together as music for the film was coming together at the same time. It feels like an album when you watch the movie, you know, like it's just cut so beautifully to the music.
That's very cool, but all of these things get workshopped down to the 11th hour. So like the sound especially is an 11th hour.
Okay.
We're often working with temp tracks, so we have an idea of tone and what we want to, but the actual final mix is something we get to enjoy with the audience.
Yeah. How did you get the New York feeling so authentic, and you know the cultures that we see? Not only sort of in Miles's world, but permeating through all of these different dimensions. You guys really nailed all of that stuff.
That was well, animation. You get to do a beautiful thing where you get to build everything. It's all a choice. Every building that's made is a choice. So, the team chose to make the New York feel like a character itself. Specifically, each borough have its own identity. Brooklyn, where Miles is from, it has to feel warmer and more colorful. It's got shorter buildings, and Manhattan is abstractly tall in this colder but more electric feel. So that heightened the drama and difference between those two worlds. And because it's animation, you get to exaggerate and distort things to enhance that emotion.
Yeah. You've got Stan Lee in the movie. And a spoiler for anybody, but really, it stands in everything. Had he had a chance to really see anything from the film?
The directors did show him a work in progress, and they got to share with him some of the scenes. And I think he was. What I heard was he responded really well to it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Brian Michael Bendis is the guy that created the character of Miles Morales, and he has been effusive. He's been like dancing and like crazy and reposting all kinds of stuff about.
Oh, that's amazing! I didn't know that.
He is an amazing guy to follow because he's
I'm not on Twitterverse. All right.
No, that's probably not a bad idea. Right. But he works at DC now, but he's still incredibly proud of all of the contributions out there. But I'm wondering if he ever came up to Vancouver. He's a Portland guy. I don't know if he ever visited the animation studio or anything like that, or you heard from him?
I don't know. He did. We did hear. He was in touch with some of the team. I'm not sure when.
For story and for I think they would. Directors would had early contact with him for sure.
Okay. Does it ever work where you guys are animating a scene or putting a piece together visually, that you go back to the writers and say, maybe we should change the tone here, or maybe we should, think of some new lines of dialogue here. Let's shift things around. Or does it always start from the script and you animate to the script?
This was one of the least animation is a visual medium, so the script is the backbone of it. But it's so workshopped. It usually goes the other way around, where once we've started a performance, in fact, some of the directors have told me once they started seeing how we were leaning into this style of performance, that it left more space, that they felt like the characters needed to say less things. They could emote them, express them silently. And that little space is like animation gold.
Right.
And to hear that was confirmed was interesting. Sometimes we would pitch. There's a thing we think we could do better in performance, but more often than not, it's they see something and that triggers a new idea, and it just it's honed down till the end.
That's awesome. How did it work in terms of getting feedback from Los Angeles? Was it like you guys would cut pieces together and you'd get dailies coming back to you every day, and they'd say tune this, tweak this? What kinds of feedback would you get?
Yeah, I think for the most part, once we had found the style and we knew the kind of movie that we were making, the notes were really about performance. and sometimes about like choreography of how blocking a shot. But it was mostly about what they wanted to feel like, and then it was up to us to figure out the technical aspect of how to get that. But yeah, once the style was settled, it was just about them reacting emotionally to what they wanted to see in the scene, and us then having to cry in a corner, saying no big deal, give me a minute.
How many different dimensions did you guys end up sort of crafting for this film? I know we get the noir and we get the Spider-Ham and Spider-Gwen and you know.
And you were a big part of 2099. That was 2099. That was an 11th hour. That was we were doing. It was weeks before it was in theaters, and we were trying to figure out how to get that.
No
one
way! Yeah. Oh my God! So how many were there? Other dimensions that didn't make it in, or little sort of Easter eggs and things that didn't quite make it in time?
There's a lot of exploration for looks of other of the dimensions you saw, like alternate versions of those people's dimensions. There's a lot of exploration with those, but we didn't build universes that didn't end up on screen. There's certainly like versions of the story and script and boards before it came into our side of production where some of those ideas were out there. But we built the characters you ended up seeing.
This is kind of excruciating in the same way that Insomniac's phenomenal Spider-Man video game is excruciating. Like, all you want is way more. But it's not easy to build a lot more, is it? I mean, like, you created so many tangents for us to just get invested in, but now we have to wait.
That's true. I think they say that's a good thing, right? Leave them wanting more.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite element or a favorite part or favorite dimension that you were crafting along the way? I'll ask both of you guys.
You go first.
I'm just a big fan of Miles. Miles is the one I worked the most on.
He was the hardest to find, too.
He was the hardest to find, and it was so rewarding when we actually found him. And he was charming, and he was this cool kid. So yeah, working with Miles and like everything that's Miles related to me is super special, and I think he's by far my favorite.
The relationship with his father. I mean, I cried in this movie, and what was amazing about this movie is I saw it with two comic book artists. I saw one's a writer. They're both writers, but we were all crying in the front row, and it was just so effective. And wow. I don't know. Did you guys know that you were going to hit emotionally? And I read Twitter feedback about this movie from like comics and stuff that go and see, like people that write for Saturday Night Live. They go into seeing this, not knowing what they're getting, and they come out changed.
That is one of the things I'm most proud of, like the diverse style of performances we got to marry in this movie, where we had that sort of drama, that sort of authentic, honest performance you don't often get to do in animation. Yeah. With like like the voice acting was stunning. So getting to live up to Brian Tyree and Mahershala's like voice is incredible. Yeah. That and then the engineering I'm all equally proud of these abstract characters like Penny and Ham, just being able to have that universe stand with there. That was far more complex than it probably looks like. And then the fight choreography, I just have a special place in my heart for. I love action films, and getting to do all of those together. Yeah. So I pick and choose my favorite on the day.
And then you have just complete asides like the '60s Spider-Man just popping in there. You know, just incredible.
Nick Cage killed it.
It was really, really funny. You guys have done something cool with the software that you used for this film. I understand that it's going to be open source, or there's some part of the animation that you're sharing out there.
That is true, and I'm too dumb to understand that part of it.
Humberto, do you know what's going on there?
Not a lot. I know there's one piece of software that's being released as open source. Yeah. I'm not sure that's something we used in animation. I think it's more of a color correction thing.
Oh, okay.
The lighting, the back-end side.
But still, that speaks to you guys cracking through with something our eyeballs had never seen before. And that must feel really damn good.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Have you heard from I mean, you're not up against slouches either. You've got The Incredibles 2 out there right now, so I'm curious if you've heard, and it was a good movie, and I'm curious if you've heard from peers or colleagues that work at Pixar or Disney or some of the other studios that are in that world.
I was lucky enough to attend the Annies, and one of the beautiful things about that event, that award ceremony, is like we heard Spider-Verse, and you root for your team, and you start clapping, and it felt like our applause had echoes, and it felt like the whole room was rooting for us. That art, people were rooting for art, and it felt magical and special, and I'm really grateful for getting to experience that.
You guys have done a lot of movies, but has there been a movie like this that has registered like this so far from the animation side of Sony Imageworks?
This feels special. That seems like a question we could only answer in hindsight, but
yeah,
right now, this feels very special.
How long do we have to wait for more? That's what I want to ask. That's what everybody wants to know out there. Can you give us any ballpark? Is it?
They're working hard.
They're working hard.
They're working hard.
Yeah.
Again.
I don't care what you give us either. It could be more miles. It could be any one of the spider.
But you care, and you want it to be done right.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
True. True that. Yeah. You don't have to rush anything. Just make it beautiful. And thank you. Thank you for the work, and thank you for giving us this incredible movie, and thank you for making this a special birthday for me and coming on the show. Great to meet you, both of you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.